Hello, Algebra 1 2. This is video number 2 of the year. So a couple of things about the organization. So you hopefully have done this yesterday, Wednesday. And then you're going to do this on Thursday. So I'm not going to totally mark this up all the time. And maybe I'll just write it lightly in pencil. So this is Thursday. And then Friday would be 1.4, right? Because I'm numbering the days according to lessons. So we're not going to take notes for 1.4. And then this would be Monday. And so that'll be part of your assignment for Monday. So that's kind of how I'm organizing this. This won't go out of order, but it might skip because we might not take notes every day. So I hope that makes sense to you and to your parents or any other family members or teachers that are helping you. Okay, today we're just doing box plots. So I put this as kind of a preview, and if you print these out, they're together. So you're going to have to pay attention to which ones I'm using because they're also out of order. Not cool, Miss Taylor. Okay, so I'm skipping over my mean, median, and mode notes. There's that other page. And I actually skipped a page because if you look, my box plots are going to be on one single page. I wish I could zoom out. And then you'll notice which page I'm starting with here. So it's the one that starts with breaks down in quarters, and then it ends in step 2. And I kind of left this column. It's about taking Cornell notes. And then the rest of it is just those 2 examples up here. So I cut it off. Again, I left that long column. And then there's 2 examples there. Okay, I'm going to take a seat. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit, although this pretty much gives the picture. And I'm going to start taking notes. All right, so box plots. They're also called box and whisker plots. So they're these funny things that you really don't see a lot, but we learn about them because they're a great way to talking about data. And this is kind of the median, and it's not always in the middle. So the whiskers, we've got a box here and then the whiskers. So that's why it's called box and whisker plots. Okay, for short, I'm going to call it a box plot. So it breaks down data in quarters, so in really fourths, 4 groups. And it's a good way to see outliers. Okay. So what are outliers? Well, outliers are data, too big or small, compared to the rest of the numbers. So if we're talking about height and we've got, a bunch of people, and then we have one NBA basketball player who's a center for the Portland Trail Blazers, that person would probably be an outlier because he is so tall as an NBA basketball player. So that's kind of an example. To make a box and whisker plot, you need the 5-number summary. So the 5-number summary is something that you're going to be asked to find. The 5-number summary. And so it's all of these. And we're going to fill in 2 of them because they're very strange. Let me do a quick check, make sure you can see everything. Okay, so the minimum is our lowest value. We talked about this a little bit with mean, median, and mode, and range. Lowest value. And we're gonna put 0% there. So it's where it starts, it's the smallest value. And if I had my sticks of justice, I would call on someone and say, well, what's the maximum? That's gonna be our highest value. And so 100% of our data falls at or below that. It encompasses all of our data points. Then we have the median that we learned yesterday. That's our middle value. And that's at 50%. And then we have these funny words that you just have to know for to sound smart and to know for algebra. So you've got your lower quartile, and they do make sense. So a lower quarter. And we can call this Q1. So lower quartile, you think about this kind of like a dollar. Like this is 0, this is a quarter, this is 50 cents, 75 cents, and then the whole dollar, or 100%. And that's kind of how I'm outlining this too. So this is, and it's a mouthful, it's the middle of the lower half. Okay, and I'm running out of room, but I want to put 25%. Again, it's that first quarter of data. And so we've got a lower quartile, and then we've got the upper quartile. And I'll write it a little smaller so I hopefully don't run out of room. And this is going to be Q3. Okay, so median is actually Q2, which you see this. So you've got the first quarter of data, the second quarter of data, or the median, which is that middle, and then the third quarter of data. So this was the middle of the lower half, or between the minimum and the median. This is going to be the middle of the upper half. And I'm going to call this 75%. Okay, still doing okay? All right, remember, rewind, pause, fast forward. So the other thing we've got is called the interquartile range, or the IQR. So the I for inter, the Q for quartile, and the R for range. So that's just whatever the number is for Q3 minus Q1. So we're going to have an example on that. Okay, in this space I wanted to provide to just draw the picture and label it. So let's say we've got something that looks like this. And I'll have that there. And this will stick out here. So this is the minimum. Right there. You could draw a line to that if you don't think that that's too complicated. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to confuse people. This is your max. And we'll say 100%, 0%. Okay, then we've got our median. So it doesn't look like the middle, but that just means that 10 numbers are here and 10 numbers are here, or 8 numbers are here and 8 numbers are here. So it just depends on what the range or the spacing of the numbers are. So this is the median, and that's 50%. Okay, and then you've got Q1, which is right there, and Q3. So we've got 25% and 75%. Okay, so there's actually 2 steps and they sound so simple, and hopefully with practice you'll see that it's really, in terms of what I say for step 1 and step 2, that's exactly what we do. So step 1, we divide data in half. Step 2, we divide in half again. What? Okay. So this might be a good time to pause the tape, go take a lap around the block or stretch, because we're gonna have 2 examples. So we're kind of halfway through the notes. But I'm gonna keep going. All right. Okay, so here's the 2 examples. And I'm just going to move this here. So it says, create a box and whisker plot for the data, give the 5-number summary, and answer these following questions. So this is this first example. Okay, so here's our data. And literally what I said is to divide the data in half. So if we look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points of data. So we have a middle. So we must have 4 on one side, and then we have a middle, and then 4 on the other. So take a moment to notice that 7 is our median. It is the middle number. This is already in order, so we didn't have to do that, and which is nice. You're welcome. Okay. So here's my median. Okay. And so then, that's step 1. We divided them in half. Now we divide it in half again. So if I look at this first 4 numbers, half is between these 2. And again, finding the median of these numbers, we would add them together and divide by 2. So 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. I think I can find that anyway, so I know that that's 3.5. And then I have to do the same thing with the upper half. So I've got these 4 numbers. Let's make sure you can see that. 8, 8, 9, 9. Again, they're in order. So that halfway between 8 and 9 is 8.5. So those are my Q1 and my Q3. All right, so 5-number summary. So that's going to be my men, Q1, my median, my Q3, and my maximum. So my smallest number was 3. Q1 was 3.5. My median was 7. Q3 was 8.5. And the highest number in the data is 9. All right, I have to create a box plot. So that's going to take a number line. And I have to really have the good spacing for this. So if I look at these numbers, I'm really looking at numbers between, 0 and 10. So that's how I'm going to set this up. I've got 0, I've got 10, 5 is like in the middle. And then, if they're really big numbers, you can't label all of them. You might go by 2s or 10s or even 5s. But since I'm just going from 0 to 10, I can do each number. And I can just do it the best I can. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then to make this, I go along this 5-number summary and I just make those little 2 dots and then a line. So I'm really making this shape right here. So the minimum and maximum are these dots, and then I've got these bars that I'm gonna connect. Okay, so my minimum is 3. That's a dot, 1, 2, 3. And then my maximum is a 9. And then I've got Q1, which is 3.5, so it's really close to that one. So those numbers must be really low together. And then I've got my median, which is 7, 5, 6, 7. And then I've got an 8.5. So those are my whiskers. So it really talks about the spread of the data, that there's the same amount of numbers here that there is here. So in our case, there's just, there's just 2. There's 2 here, there's 2 numbers here, and then there's 2 numbers there. But it could be 100 and 100 and 100. And so these numbers must be more spread out than the numbers right there. Okay, what's the IQR? So I'm gonna look back at my notes, and Miss Taylor just told me that the IQR is Q3, take away Q1. All right. So Q3 is 8.5. Take away Q1, which is 3.5. So that's 5. That's our interquartile range. And so if I check from here to here, that's 5 numbers, 5 data points. Well, 5 spaces, not necessarily the points of data. And then how much data is between 7 and 9? So again, this is 0% of the data. This is 25, this is 50, this is 75, and this is 100. So if my 7 is right here and my 9 is here, that's between 50 and 100, or 50% of the data. So it's between my median and my maximum. So that's 50%. And that better follow up here. So if I look, that's half of my data right here. So the other half is down below that. All right. Number 2. Again, take a stretch and then come back for number 2. Okay, for this one, how many data points do we have? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're gonna have 5 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know halfway between 7 and 8, I could add them and get 15 divided by 2 is 7.5, or I know that that's gonna be 7.5, okay? So that's my median. That's the middle of my data. Again, you're welcome that they are in order. Otherwise, you have to put them in order. Okay, let's look at these. So my lower half, there's only 5 points, so I've got a middle, which is nice. And then the same thing up here. My middle number of all of these is this one. You just look at those 5 points. You've got 2 on one side, 2 on the other side. All right, let's list the 5-number summary because that makes it easier for the box plot. So we've got min, Q1, median, Q3, and my max. Okay, my smallest number is 3 and my max is 9. I like those. Then I circled the 4. My median was 7.5. And I circled that 9. So these are the same. Ooh, it's gonna be, we've got lots of higher numbers out there. Okay, let's make this axis. Halfway looks about right here, and I'm just gonna do the best I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So my minimum is one of those whiskers, 1, 2, 3. My maximum is another whisker. My median is 7.5, 6, 7.5. And then my Q3 is the same, so that's gonna look like that. Whoa, getting crazy up in this statistics. So here's my box. Here's that. So that just says that there are a lot of repeating numbers and there's lots of numbers between here. Okay, what's the IQR? So that's Q3, 9. Take away Q1, which is 4. So again, that's 5, just like the example above, even though the data is different. How much data is between 4 and 9? So this is 4, so this is a quarter of our data, right? 0, 25, 50, 75, 100. And 9, that's 100% of our data. That's all of it. So it must be 75%. So the only data that's not between those is down here, or 25%. Again, this doesn't look like it's perfectly in half, but it does mean that a quarter of our data is between here, 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 and then even here, and that's why we have all those 9s. That's just crazy. And that's it for box plots.